Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sapient Academia. Right here, we'll be talking about the types of satire. So, if you've gone through the previous lectures, the development and evolution of satire, this video will be a bit easier for you to understand. So, first, you need to go through the development of satire. There is a series of 3 lectures, and after there, you have to go through this video. So, right here, we'll be discussing types of satire. So there are 3 prominent examples of satire: the Horatian Satire, the Juvenilian Satire, and the Menippean Satire. We are going to discuss each in detail. So the first one is Horatian Satire. If you remember, in the development of satire, when we were discussing the Roman word, we talked about Horace and Horatian Satire. However, this video is about the types of satire, so we are going to discuss each type in detail. So Horatian Satire is a type of satire that originated with the ancient poet Horace during the Augustan age. So Horace basically wrote in one of the greatest periods of Latin literature. Horace wrote satires to gently ridicule the dominant opinion and philosophical beliefs of ancient Rome and Greece. You must focus on the structure, gently ridicule. So Horatian satire is not a harsh type of satire. It's very gentle and polite kind of satire. So rather than writing in harsh or accusing tones, he addressed issues with humor and clever mockery. Horatian satire follows this pattern of gently ridiculing the absurdities and follies of human beings. And even the Horatian satire's sympathetic tone is common in modern society. So, the goal is to heal the situation with smiles because it's a gentle kind of satire rather than by anger. So, Horatian satire is a gentle reminder to take life less seriously and evokes a smile. Hence, to connect it with the 18th century literature, so the 18th century had its own Augustan period, as writers such as Alexander Pope, Jonathan Swift, and Joseph Addison adopted the term Augustan. And Pope and others called themselves Augustans because they were trying to imitate the greatness of the original Augustan poets in their own works. So, 2 of the greatest examples of Horatian satires in the English language are Alexander Pope's 1712 mock heroic poem, The Rape of the Lock, which is about an aristocratic lady who has a lock of her hair stolen by her suitor. Another example that is very famous is Oscar Wilde's satirical play, The Importance of Being Earnest, which is about 2 men who adopt different names in the country to avoid their social duties. So you must remember these examples. To look at these examples in detail, the poem Rape of the Lock uses exaggeration and humor. The poem basically compares the theft of Belinda's lock to the abduction of Helen of Troy, to mock the upper class in London at the same time. For example, at the end of the poem, Pope claims that the lock will be immortalized, which is clearly a ridiculous statement. Now go through these lines and you will see that Pope's intention is to hold a mirror up to his fellow members of society and show them that their problems are not problems at all, and that they need to start worrying about more important things in life. Sam like this in The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde, He gently mocks Victorian society's conventions through exaggeration and wit. Go through the following dialogue, and you will come to know that there are two characters who discuss honesty and deception while also poking fun at upper class pretentiousness such as literary expertise. The second type of satire is the Juvenilian satire, and it is named after the Roman poet Juvenal. It is harsh and bitter form of satire that condemns human vice and folly. Unlike other forms of satire that are more tolerant or mild, Juvenalian satire is darker and more cynical. So you must remember this difference, that it is not like the Horatian satire, which is more gentle. Although juvenile satire may be funny at times, its primary purpose is not to elicit laughter but to reform society. So you must remember that it is more scornful and harsh than the Horatian satire. To achieve its goal, Juvenalian satire employs various literary devices, including parody, exaggeration, and irony. However, its tone and style are closer to tragedy than comedy. The Juvenalian satirists use the word with horror and contempt rather than amusement. They often depict nightmarish and dystopian versions of society to deliver their scathing critiques. For example, George Orwell's dystopian novel 1984 creates a grim and oppressive atmosphere to evoke feelings of outrage in the readers and warn them of the dangers of totalitarianism. Following this tradition, Juvenalian satire addresses perceived social evils through scorn, outrage, and savage ridicule. This form is often pessimistic. A juvenile satirist's goal is generally to provoke some sort of political or societal change because he sees his opponent or object as evil or harmful. Jonathan Swift has been established as an author who borrowed heavily from Juvenal's techniques and his critique of contemporary English society. Gulliver Travels by Jonathan Swift, with its cynical view on human nature, can be considered an example of Juvenalian satire. The novel basically imitates the style of 18th century travelogues, a popular genre at the time, satirizing both travelers' tales and various aspects of society, like political corruption and religious intolerance. So the third form of satire is the Menippean satire. If you remember, in the development of satire from ancient Egypt to restoration, a series of 3 lectures, we had discussed that Menippean satire is the oldest form of satire still in use. So this is the oldest form of satire still in use. And this particular genre, usually in prose, that is characterized by attacking mental attitudes rather than specific individuals or entities. So you must focus that to attack mental attitudes. So it is to criticize societal attitudes and ideas as a whole. And its target is not to criticize or attack an individual, but to criticize society's attitudes and ideas as a whole. Critic Northrop Frye said that Menippean satire moves rapidly between styles and points of view. So it means that Menippean satire is a complex kind of satire. It's a heterogeneous kind of satire. It has not a single point of view or a single style. Go through the five words. He observed that the novelist sees evil and folly as social diseases, but the Menippean satirist sees them as diseases of the intellect. So, once again, this particular form of satire is something related to the mental attitudes and ideas. In a nutshell, Menippean satire is characterized by attacking societal attitudes rather than specific individuals or entities. So, it is about to attack the entire society, the societal attitudes, and not an individual. Further, it is a form of satire that uses a mixture of allegory and satirical commentary. As I said before, that Fry observed that it has not a single point of view. So it is a mixture and heterogeneous kind of satire. And further, we can say that it has been described as a serio-comic genre, meaning that it combines elements of both comedy and tragedy. This particular kind of satire is often indirect, using absurdity and irony to make points rather than direct attacks. So, if it is indirect and if it is related to attitudes, then it must be philosophical. So, you must remember that this form of satire is more philosophical than the first two types of satire. This form was revived during the Renaissance by Erasmus and Lawrence Sterne, while 19th century examples include The Doctor of Robert Southey. The 20th century saw renewed critical interest in the form, with Menippean satire significantly influencing postmodern literature. Among the works that contemporary scholars have identified as growing out of the Menippean tradition are Erasmus, In Praise of Folly; Robert Burton, The Anatomy of Melancholy; Jonathan Swift, A Tale of a Tub; William Blake, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. That's all for today. Stay tuned with us for the upcoming lectures.